and I'm a Christian. I live in Somerset and the beautiful scenery makes me realise just how blessed we are. As a young adult setting out in the world, I want to play my part in making sure that the future is green and sustainable. I do my bit at home, but what can the churches do?
Why should the church be concerned about energy saving? It's partly because we're placed in a world where God has given us intelligence and responsibility. Intelligence and responsibility to make the most of what is around us without damaging its integrity. Getting that balance right is, we all know, very difficult, but it's crucial to try.
We take energy for granted. We flip a switch and we expect it to be there at our command. And we're very fortunate that it is, because billions of people around the world have no source of energy at all. So we have a duty. We have a duty to make sure that we use the energy that we have as properly as we can. And then modern technology actually opens up some new sources of energy. But it is important that we look at these and see how new technology can help develop new sources of energy which are far more environmentally friendly.
Lots of energy is provided by the sun, and it's up to us to use this gift wisely. John Bimson is a theologian at Trinity College in Bristol.
There are some people who would say, well, surely God has given us these fossil fuels to use and we should exploit them to the full. But I think that overlooks the fact that God has also given us other gifts that we can use, namely the renewable energies, the wind energy, the solar energy and tidal energy. And to just concentrate on the fossil fuels and think, well, they're the gift, let's use those until they've all gone, is foolish when we know that continuing to exploit fossil fuels is going to have long-term damage on the planet's ecosystems and on millions of its inhabitants.
Some churches are already on the case. St Michael's and All Angels in South Bristol are loving their solar panels.
Hi, I'm David Moss. I'm vicar of St Michael's and All Angels, just down there, Windmill Hill, Bedminster in Bristol, and I'm here to tell you about our solar panels. Well, we've had them just over 2 years now, and it came to us really quite amazingly. An old guy in his 80s gave us £4,000. He says, I really believe this. I want you to see if you can put them on the roof. I've been polluting the atmosphere all my life. Can you do something about it?
And have you been pleased?
It's been fantastic. Yeah. We're generating our own electricity, and we're also getting a big payback from the government at the moment as well. So not, 2,000 a year something.
I know what you're thinking. It's all very well when it's sunny, but more often than not, the weather in Britain is pretty grim. So what about when it's cloudy? I went to St Michael the Archangel Church in Taunton on a freezing day in February and spoke to Richard Humphrey, who installed the solar panels in 2011. So, Richard, if we look about today, it's cold, it's freezing, it was raining earlier. Are we going to get any energy from solar panels on a day like today?
Absolutely, yes. Nowhere near as much, obviously, as on a sunny day. It depends on the time of the year, but even on a cloudy day, you'll still be producing. So a system like this, currently, we're producing about 150 watts.
Looking at the church, it's pretty modern. Would you say it's a good building to build on?
Absolutely, yeah. I've looked at other churches, and there are certainly more issues with some of the older churches, but this being a fairly modern church, there's no real shading issues. Yeah. It's a large space. The figures do stack up, and those figures, if they're done properly, can be trusted.
Colin Snell is the vicar of St Michael's. He's convinced that the solar panels really are working. They've generated over £1,600 income in less than a year.
This is our page. This is our dedicated page on this data logger.
And this bar chart is showing us the energy generated on each day. So I'm guessing February the 10th was a little bit cold and miserable, as was the 4th and the 7th. But look, 1st, 2nd and 3rd, look at the power generated there. 11th was our peak day when 20 kilowatts of energy were produced by those solar panels. Let's go back to the August. July, that's pretty good. So we're looking at June, which is probably the peak months, isn't it, really? And on a number of days, 25 kilowatts of energy were produced by those solar panels.
David White is a chartered surveyor and advisor on alternative energy. He agrees that it does make economic sense and that many churches are tailor-made for solar panels.
At the moment, for every kilowatt peak rating of panel, you can get about 800 to 900 times that in terms of kilowatt hours per year. But we're getting close now, particularly in the south of the country. A lot of the panels will produce 1,000 times the kilowatt rating in terms of kilowatt hours per year. In other words, a 4 kilowatt system will produce 4,000 kilowatt hours per year. A feed-in tariff is a subsidy from the government to save them providing power generation, and you get it on top of the energy that's it's generating for you anyway, for your lights and your appliances and everything else. You get the feed-in tariff. Now, last year that was set at 43.3 pence per kilowatt hour, which caused an absolute gold rush. And I've looked at a few installations, and the return on capital employed has been around about 15 to 17% in the South of England, which is huge. I mean, far higher than you could get on any normal investment for normal people. And I've looked at how the payback changes, and the return on capital employed, when you drop down to 21 pence, which is what it is now, drops down from about 16 to 12%, something like that. It's not as bad as you might think. Unfortunately, in August 2012, the tariff will drop down to 16 pence per kilowatt hour. But even then, by the time you take into account that the panels are getting cheaper all the time and more efficient all the time, still the rate of return on the capital is still around about 10%, which still beats any other investment that I'm aware of for normal people.
There is a lot of potential for using solar power in our churches right across Britain. I hope that this introduction has inspired you to start finding out more about alternative energy, not just because it's sensible or a hot topic right now, but also because we're Christians. You can find out lots more information on these websites.
At a time when we're more and more aware of how the irresponsible use of energy resources damages the world for the present and the future, we as Christians have to show a better way. We have to show that the energy that permeates the whole universe, the energy that ultimately comes from the act of God, is something we can work with, not just exploit, not just abuse. And we need to know how that works in very ordinary, very local, very day-to-day ways. We can think about our use of energy in our homes, our schools, our church buildings. We can think about what does and doesn't properly contribute to a stable environment for the future. And we do that not just because we've read the latest article on the subject, but because we've read our Bibles, because we know that God has given us a world not to dominate, not to squeeze dry, but to nurture in His name.